Ladies and gentlemen, you ever notice how a man can disappear like he joined some undercover mission, then pop back up like he just stepped outside to check the mail? See, when a man reaches out after silence, it shakes you a little, not because you were waiting for him, but because you remember how much noise that silence made. Silence from somebody you cared about hits different. It makes you question yourself, replay memories, rewrite conversations that already happened. But when he finally comes back with that, "Hey, stranger, are you good?" something in you pauses, not your feelings, your spirit. Because now the question ain't, why is he back? The real question is, what do you do now? When someone goes silent on you, it hits in a place you don't always talk about out loud. It feels like everything you were building with them was paused without your permission, and you're left standing there with questions that echo louder in your own mind than anything they ever said. You start replaying every moment, wondering if you missed a sign, wondering if you expected too much, wondering if you cared more than they did. But the truth is, silence is not an accident. Silence is information. Silence tells you exactly where you stand in someone's life without them having to explain a single thing. When a man goes quiet, he's showing you his priorities in real time, and that's something you should never ignore. In those moments when he finally reaches back out, it's easy to forget what that silence felt like. A part of you wants to respond fast because you're relieved he remembered you. Another part of you wants to ignore him because you remember how that silence stung. But the strongest part of you is the one that pays attention to the message beneath the behavior. You don't have to get angry and you don't have to get emotional. You just have to get clear, because his silence wasn't just time passing. It was a test of how much you value yourself, even when he fails to. Show he values you. People reveal their priorities through consistency, not through sudden appearances. So when someone disappears for days or weeks and then pops up like nothing happened, that gap in their effort matters. It tells you how much energy they are willing to invest and how much they think you will tolerate. When you respond, you're not just answering a message, you're communicating your standard. You're sending a signal back. And the way you respond should match the priorities you hold for yourself. If you treat yourself with value, your response will reflect that without you trying. To prove anything, your value doesn't shrink because someone paused communication. Your worth doesn't decrease because someone didn't prioritize you. But your response determines whether you keep your power or hand it right back. When he reaches out, he's trying to see if the door is still open. But just because he knocks doesn't mean you have to swing that door wide immediately. Your time, your peace, your attention, those are all things he should earn. And when you choose not to rush, not to jump, not to react out of emotion, you remind yourself who you are without even saying it out loud. This moment isn't about making him feel guilty. It isn't about punishing him. It's about honoring what you learned during the silence. You learned what it feels like to stand on your own 2 feet without waiting for someone else to validate you. You learned that your heart doesn't collapse when someone steps back. And you learned that you deserve someone who shows up, not someone who disappears when it's convenient. When you respond with clarity, calmness, and self-respect, you let your priorities speak louder than your words ever could. When someone has been inconsistent with you, the biggest mistake you can make is giving them instant access the moment they decide to show up again. Because when you respond immediately, you send a message without realizing it. You tell them that your time isn't protected, your emotions aren't guarded, and your boundaries can be crossed without consequence. And that's not because you're weak, it's because you care. But caring doesn't mean abandoning your self-respect. When someone disappears and then comes back like nothing happened, your first instinct may be to respond fast just to end the confusion inside you. But responding fast doesn't fix anything. It only teaches them that disappearing is acceptable. There's a part of you that wants to be understanding, that wants to give people the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself maybe they were busy, maybe life got heavy, maybe they had reasons you don't know. And maybe that's true. But even if it is, a person who genuinely values you won't treat you like an option they pick up and put down whenever they feel like it. Your availability should match their consistency, not their excuses. When you delay your response, even just a little, it's not about playing games. It's about resetting the balance. It's about reminding yourself that your attention is meaningful. You deserve communication that respects your time, not conversations that come and go like a passing mood. By not answering right away, you give yourself a moment to breathe, to think, to check in with your emotional truth before reacting. You give yourself space to decide if this is someone who brings peace or someone who brings patterns that keep hurting you, and in that pause, something powerful happens. You remember that you're not desperate for their presence. You remember that your life didn't stop during their silence. You remember that your heart doesn't need to chase what doesn't stay. That small pause becomes a quiet declaration of self-worth. It tells you that you don't need to respond from fear of losing them. Because if silence was all it took for them to drift away, they were never anchored to you in the first place. When they finally hear from you, your energy should be steady, calm, unbothered, not cold, not petty, not emotional. Just steady. Because steady energy shows confidence. It shows maturity. It shows that you're no longer operating from a place of hoping they choose you. You're operating from a place of choosing yourself. And when you choose yourself first, people think differently before they take advantage of your kindness again. You're not withholding a response to punish them. You're doing it to honor yourself. You're protecting your heart by not rushing into situations that previously left you confused or hurt. And when you stop rewarding inconsistency with immediate availability, you teach the world something important about how you expect to be treated. You show that your time is valuable. You show that your presence is earned. And you show that anyone who wants a place in your life has to show up with the same consistency you give. So naturally, the moment you respond to someone who went silent on you, your tone becomes the real message. People think it's the words that matter, but it's not. Is the energy behind those words, the emotion they carry, the confidence they reveal. When he reaches out after silence, he's not just reading what you say, he's reading who you are now. He's trying to see if you're still the same person he could vanish on without consequences. Or if you've grown into someone who carries herself with a little more strength, a little more clarity, a little more self-respect. That's why your tone matters so much. It sets the direction of the entire conversation before it even begins. You don't need to be rude, and you don't need to be overly sweet either. A balanced, calm tone shows something far more powerful than anger. It shows control. It shows that his absence didn't break you. It shows that you're not responding from a place of hurt, confusion, or anxiety. You're responding from a place of independence. A calm tone is strength disguised as softness. It's a quiet way of saying, I don't chase, I don't beg, I don't lose myself over someone else's inconsistency. And when a man feels that shift in your tone, he realizes things aren't going to go his way as easily as before. If you respond emotionally, he'll know he still has a certain power over you. If you respond irritated, he'll think you're still affected. If you respond too eagerly, he'll assume you didn't notice or didn't care about the silence. But when your tone is neutral, warm, but not invested, open, but not desperate, steady, but not excited, it sends the strongest message of all. It tells him you're not holding on to the past, but you're not blindly welcoming him back either. You're letting him step in, but not giving him the comfort of your old self. Your tone tells him the rules without you having to spell them out. When you speak calmly, without trying to impress, convince, or get emotional closure, it forces him to focus. It makes him pay more attention. It makes him wonder what changed. It awakens accountability in him because for the first time, he can feel that you're not dependent on his presence. He can feel that you're not waiting around for his messages anymore. And when a man senses a shift in your confidence, it challenges him to step up or step out. That's the silent power behind your tone. And the best part is, this tone doesn't come from pretending. It comes from healing. It comes from understanding your worth. It comes from learning that your peace is too expensive to let someone discount it. Your tone becomes your shield, your boundary, your strength in motion. It's the difference between repeating an old cycle and starting a new chapter where you no longer respond just to keep him. You respond in a way that keeps you. Before you respond to someone who went silent on you, you have to check in with yourself first. Not your hopes, not your memories, not your desire for things to go back to the way they were. You have to check in with your peace. Because every person who comes back into your life brings one up. Two things, clarity or chaos. And the moment you see their name pop up on your phone, something inside you already knows which one it is. Your body reacts before your mind even forms a thought. Maybe your chest tightens a little. Maybe you feel a pull of confusion. Maybe you feel relief mixed with anger you never said out loud. All those feelings are signals, and you can't ignore them just because someone suddenly decided to reach out. Again, silence gives you the space to feel things you weren't letting yourself feel before. It shows you what life is like without their presence. Sometimes that silence hurts, but sometimes it brings a strange kind of peace you didn't expect. And when they return, you have to ask yourself a hard question. Did your life feel heavier without them or lighter? Because a person who truly belongs in your life shouldn't bring confusion every time they show up. They shouldn't make you question your worth. They shouldn't leave you wondering when the next silence is coming. If their return brings more anxiety than comfort, that's not a sign to welcome them back. That's a sign to protect your heart. There's a part of you that wants to believe people change just because they reached out. You want to believe the silence meant something deep, like maybe they realized your value. And sometimes they do, but a lot of the time, reaching out is just a moment of boredom, loneliness, or curiosity. You have to be honest with yourself about what you're feeling and whether those emotions come from love or from a lack of closure, because someone's return can trigger old wounds you thought you healed. It can reopen questions you buried. And if you don't pause long enough to evaluate your emotions, you can fall right back into the same cycle you prayed to escape. When you ask yourself whether this person brings peace or confusion, don't just think about the best moment. Think about the last time you cried over them. Think about the last time their inconsistency made you doubt yourself. Think about the last time you waited for a message that never came. Those memories aren't there to punish you. They're there to protect you, because the truth is, love is not supposed to feel like guessing. It's not supposed to feel like being chosen one day and forgotten the next. If someone's presence brings more turmoil than calm, your heart already knows the answer you're afraid to say out loud. And if their return genuinely brings peace, real peace, not temporary excitement or nostalgia, you'll feel that too. You'll feel steadiness instead of anxiety. You'll feel clarity instead of chaos. You'll feel grounded instead of confused. That's how you know. And when you honor what your emotions are trying to tell you, you stop responding from fear of losing them and start responding from a place of protecting yourself, because peace is the most valuable thing you have, and anyone who disrupts it is too expensive to keep around, no matter how familiar they feel before you even type a word back to someone who suddenly reappears after disappearing. You have to understand that the conversation will go wherever you allow it to go. That's why boundaries matter. Not the kind you speak out loud to prove a point, but the kind you hold quietly within yourself. Boundaries that guide your choices, your tone, your time, your energy. Boundaries that remind you that you don't owe anyone instant explanations, instant forgiveness, or instant access to you. When he reaches out after silence, the very first thing he's testing, without even realizing it, is how much of yourself you're willing to give him without requiring anything in return. A lot of people think boundaries are about being tough or difficult, but that's not true. Boundaries are about being clear. Clear about what you accept. Clear about what you won't repeat. Clear about what version of yourself you're becoming. You can be warm, you can be kind, you can be gentle, and still have boundaries that protect your heart. When he sends that message, you don't have to fall back into old habits just because they're familiar. You don't have to pick up the conversation where it left off. You don't have to fill in the silence with excuses he didn't give you. Your boundaries should shape the conversation so you don't end up in the same place you were before if he disappeared. Without explanation, your boundary might be that you don't tolerate vague communication anymore. If he only reaches out when he's bored or lonely, your boundary might be recognizing the pattern and not feeding it. If he treated you like an option, your boundary might be slowing the pace instead of jumping back in. These aren't rules you tell him. They're standards you follow quietly through your actions. And the right people always feel when they're dealing with someone who values herself. They can sense it in the way you take your time. They can hear it in the way you speak. They can see it in the way you no longer accept crumbs just to keep someone close. When you have boundaries, you're not scared of losing someone because you've already survived the silence they gave you. You're not desperate for their validation because you realize your worth didn't disappear when they did. You're not afraid to disappoint them because disappointing yourself would hurt far more. Boundaries turn your emotional space into something sacred, something not everyone gets to walk into. And if they want to step inside again, they have to do it with respect. Your boundary are your protection against slipping back into situations that made you doubt yourself. They keep your heart steady when your emotions want to rush. They help you see the difference between a man who truly wants to reconnect and a man who simply wants to check if the door is still open. And when he realizes you're no longer the version of yourself who accepted the bare minimum, he'll either step up or step aside. Boundaries don't push away the right people. They only push away the ones who never planned to stay. The beauty of boundaries is that you never have to argue for them. You don't have to justify them. You just live by them. And anyone who wants a place in your life will rise to meet them, not expect you to lower them. Growth changes the way you respond to things that used to break you. It shifts your perspective, your reactions, your expectations. When someone comes back after silence, the version of you they expect to find is usually the version they left behind, the one who cared too deeply, who forgave too quickly, who hoped too loudly. But when you've grown, something in you moves differently. You're calmer, wiser, more grounded. You don't rush to reply just to feel chosen. You don't bend just to keep the peace. You don't hand out access to people who didn't value it the first time. Your response becomes a reflection of that growth, whether you say 5 words or 50. There's a quiet confidence in a person who has healed. It shows in the way you no longer take things personally. It shows in the way you're willing to walk away if something feels off. It shows in the way you don't let someone's inconsistency shake your sense of worth. When he reaches out after silence, your response should come from the healed version of you, not the wounded version that once needed answers. You're allowed to pause. You're allowed to question. You're allowed to decide whether this reappearance aligns with the person you're becoming, not the person you used to be. When you respond from growth, you don't chase explanations. You don't beg for clarity. You don't try to make someone feel guilty. Instead, you observe. You pay attention to the tone he uses, the effort he shows, the consistency he brings. You let his actions reveal whether he's coming back with genuine intention or just temporary curiosity. Growth teaches you that people can say anything, but patterns don't lie. If he wants a space in your life again, he'll show it through consistency, not convenience. Your response should reflect the strength you earned through that silence. Silence that taught you what it feels like to rely on yourself. Silence that showed you who showed up and who didn't. Silence that helped you rediscover your own voice. So when he reappears, you don't lose yourself trying to impress him or convince him. You respond from a place of self-respect, from a place of emotional maturity. And that energy is powerful because it shows you're not afraid of losing someone you're afraid of losing yourself again. The old you might have responded immediately with excitement or anxiety. The old you might have tried to fill every gap, fix every misunderstanding, reconnect every broken thread. But the new you, the growing you, moves with intention. You choose your words with care. You choose your pace with wisdom. You choose your boundaries with love for yourself. And when he feels that shift in you, he realizes he's not returning to the same heart he walked away from. He's returning to someone stronger, someone clearer, someone who refuses to shrink just to be included. Your response becomes a mirror, showing him exactly who you are now, not the version shaped by past hurt, but the version shaped by healing. And that version of you doesn't respond to impress him. You respond in a way that honors everything you've become.